So in the last videos, we talked about what gaslighting is, isn't, and its origins. Today, I'm going to discuss what I have done to deal with situations where I was being gaslit, and how I've managed to minimize the emotional and mental impact it's had on me. Note, these tips may not work for everyone. In fact, they will not work for everyone. Some of y'all are in very toxic, long-term, dangerous situations that require more help and assistance than just a few little tips on TikTok. But I at least hope that it'll help in some small way at the very least, or bring some sort of clarity to you. It is best to find professional help or support, or some way that you can manage the situation or even get out of the situation safely. These are not going to be in any particular order, but here we go. Oh, one thing to keep in mind is that not everyone gaslights for the same reason, but in general, the main reason why people try to gaslight you, or why you may be gaslighting somebody else, is for control. Someone who is secure is not worried too much about being right or wrong. They care more about what is right and wrong. So they have no problem admitting when they are wrong. We're all insecure to some degree, and an insecure person doesn't have the final say on what is objectively true or false or right or wrong. So the first thing to think about is I had to be very honest with myself. How often have I shown to be wrong about something? How often do I misremember things? Having a keen sense of self-awareness and serenity for your flaws makes it really difficult for someone else to hold it against you. Just don't identify with your flaws. In conversations, I might say things like, yeah, I do tend to forget things. I don't always have the best memory. Or, yeah, maybe I am a little insecure about this. Keep your flaws separate from your actual identity. This is very fundamental. Instead of saying, I'm an anxious person, you say, I struggle with anxiety, or I have anxiety. Instead of saying, I'm a forgetful person, I suck at remembering things, say, I can be forgetful at times. It's a characteristic, but it's not your character and it's not your value. It's really important to get that into the base of your understanding, that you are not your flaws. This also comes with mindfulness of your actions and your environment. I've learned to be more present in my daily life, which helps me see things with more clarity. Now, you're doing all this and your opponent is still trying to gaslight you. Do not take the bait. If someone tells you, you know it's not like that, you're just being insecure, you're always being insecure. I know that probably triggered a couple of us. No matter how I feel in that moment, I take a breath and I simply ask, what do you mean by insecure? This not only puts the ball back in their court, but it also gives me a minute to breathe and think about how I'm feeling in the moment while they try to qualify that statement. Again, if you're feeling actually threatened or overstimulated, do your best to remove yourself from the situation. If they keep deflecting and they're talking about me as a person, I would just simply state how that does not address my concern. Disrespecting me does not address the issue that I'm bringing to you. You got to be firm. I had to learn to be firm and focused on the issue. And yes, this can work for just about anybody, even if you ain't a 6'3" black male. I would say things like, yeah, I know I can be insecure sometimes, but I'm just trying to have a conversation about this issue. Let's stick to the issue. Really pay attention to how they respond to that. Most of the time, a secure person is just going to address the issue. They're not going to attack your character or say things that you always do or deflect to other things. We miss that because we're in the moment. And we often miss subtle and not so subtle signs of insecurity in the other person. We're too busy trying to defend ourselves. I've learned trying to defend yourself most of the time rarely even works at all, and often can make things worse. It makes you look like the person that they think you are, even if it's not true. You're not going to explain away or convince somebody who's already made up their mind on who you are or what you did. This level of self-control is intrinsically linked to your boundaries and your respect for those boundaries, which doesn't come easy. I had to know that my perspective, my feelings can be wrong or inaccurate, but it doesn't mean that they're invalid. And it doesn't mean that they define me. Another thing that I would do is write down how I feel, especially before a big conversation. Doing this daily helps you keep your thoughts organized anyway, but you're not doing this to memorize. If you write down the conversation you want to have, it's very likely not going to go the way you want it, but it helps you consolidate all that emotion and mental energy. This also isn't easy at first, as it can be difficult to actually be honest with ourselves, but this is how you build trust with yourself. As far as the actual conversation, you need to learn how to set a boundary and stick to it. Listen, I'm not going to argue with you. I just need to address this. We need to talk about this. So what did I do there? I didn't ask for anything, and I didn't tell them what to do. I told them my intentions. That's how you set a boundary, is by stating what you are or are not going to do and what your intentions are. You don't tell them what to do. You might tell them that this is what you need from them, but you're not pleading with them, you're asserting to them. So I'm not going to continue this if you keep deflecting or insulting or projecting. Call it out too the moment you see it. See, you're deflecting right there. That does not address my actual concern. We're not talking about this, I'm talking about this. And if you're going to keep doing that, I'm going to walk out of this room and we can talk about it another time. I can make a video too about how I set boundaries and what I've learned and how uncomfortable it can be at first, but how liberating it actually is. And of course, if things get too hot, you could always say, let's calm down a little bit and then come back to this conversation. I do not want to argue, but you actually have to leave. That's the thing. There has to be consequences after you set a boundary. This way, you show them that you're not going to just react to everything they do and say like you're a puppet. This makes them very aware of their failure to influence you, which is like planting a seed. But again, sometimes this can go off the rails. If you feel unsafe, get out of there. Now, if this works and they actually calm down and try to be reasonable, okay, cool, that's good. You can work with them. But if not, then it shows you more of their character and their intentions. Manipulative people are deeply fragile inside, and often they're used to getting what they want. To some degree, we kind of all do this, but it varies whether we are aware of it or not. But don't give in to them and see who they are when they don't get their way. Someone's character often shows up when something goes wrong or does not go the way that they expect it to. This ain't easy. It takes time, but on your own time, get in touch with how you feel and how you think and really work out what it is that matters to you. This is something that you just need to do regardless, especially if you're dealing with situations where you are constantly facing deflection, gaslighting, projection, insulting. You need to have a firm understanding of how you feel. That's where the writing comes into play. Also, if you are in this long-term situation and you know that someone is up to something that they keep denying, gather proof, gather evidence, right? You don't want to look through their phone or stalk them, but if you know that they're up to something, observe, notice, be able to recall specific examples and say these things as if they are a scientific fact. So explain why you did this yesterday. See how they react to the proof. See how they react to your accusations. State these things like they're a scientific fact, not your opinion. And if you're wrong, you can just admit you're wrong and move on. But you want to pay attention to conversations. I know it's a pain in the ass, but if you're already in this situation, you got to do what you can. Nothing worth having comes easy. Also, finally, notice their reactions, what they're doing. Are they stuttering? Are they raising their voice? Do they keep deflecting, gaslighting? Are they getting angry? Do they keep trying to distract or change the subject? Are they making hasty generalizations? Notice all of this stuff. If gaslighting doesn't work on you, then you will notice other signs as well. All these tips are very difficult to do because we are programmed in our behavior to behave a certain way, but they're called social skills for a reason. We can learn these skills and develop them. Doesn't matter what your personality is, your star sign, whatever. You can learn better communication by being self-aware and being firm. Because again, nothing worth doing comes easy, and if it does, you don't keep it for very long. Also, when you learn the basic foundational elements, it makes it easier to understand the more complex and nuanced ones as you go on your journey. You don't need to know everything at once. You can try one or two of these first, and then build yourself up from there. But in short, do your research, get other opinions, talk to a professional if you can, and just make sure that you stay aware and stay tuned. Until the next one.